Good evening and welcome to a new edition of To The Point. This evening with the distinguished panel, we'll be discussing the situation in France. The Prime Minister today issued a statement whereby there will be a suspension of the increase in taxes. This issue is met with a lot of discontent. Where is the situation heading in France? And more importantly, how does this reflect on Europe? How does this reflect on Brexit? Lots of issues will be under discussion this evening. On To The Point with us this evening is His Excellency Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former Assistant Foreign Minister. A pleasure as always to have you with us. With us also this evening is Dr. Cherif Amir, Professor of Geopolitics at the University of Paris. A pleasure to have you with us. The situation is supposedly calmer. The decree or the taxes have been suspended for 6 months. Is this going to pacify the people? And maybe more importantly, is this issue a taxation issue? Because it seems that things have escalated very, very fast, very aggressively. You don't go and burn things down or loot shops because you're discontent with taxes.
Yes.
Is it a mere taxation issue?
It is a political problem. And don't forget that Europe, all those countries were in continuous war for more than centuries. And now, one of a sudden, they found that peace is better, that Germany and France are leading the European Union. But the price is high, and that's why you see the situation in England is not even better. The British people are divided. Almost 50% plus one are against, 50% minus one are with. And then if you repeat this, you will have a different conclusion. So in France also, there is the rightist that they are a little bit worried about the identity of their country.
Yes.
That in fact you will find that Germany and France naturally are diminishing. The death rate is higher than the birth rate.
Exactly.
So they are telling us that more than 10% of the population are foreigners. So you have a wide diversification of those different identity. So that's why the real rightists are in, and they are raising their voice, trying to close their country, taking the British situation as example. You don't know whether after all, in my opinion, this depends totally on the political cleverness, the political will. If there is a leadership which can really take this wave towards a peaceful solution to satisfy all the parties, this is not really an easy task. But we shall see for a while such events, and we should wait and see until sort of solution in the pipeline.
Dr. Cherif, France is like a second home to you. How do you see the situation there? And is it, as I was saying, is it a mere taxation issue? And will the far right allow the dust to settle? More importantly, since His Excellency raised an issue about the fact that you have a lot of nationalities. Some blamed it even on some nationalities, the aggressiveness or the out-of-control behavior that took place. The Minister of Interior had a statement a few days ago where he was saying recently Paris received a lot of foreigners that came to the country, and he was questioning their presence and their involvement, or insinuating maybe that there is some kind of an involvement. How do you see things?
Well, first of all, the fact that Paris, France is a second home for me, yes, made me more close to the people than to the media to listen what's going on.
Yes.
What's taking place since November 17th, the day that the Gilets jaunes, the yellow vests, started their movement. I was told by many French people in many different fields, in the army, in the police, in the taxes sector, the people who are leaders in this field in the government, and also people in the brands and let's say capitalist businesses. They were telling me this is coming. We are waiting for this day. It will happen. It will happen. And I used to say, well, France is a big country. It won't happen like that in a day. Or still, as a specialist, I tell you the truth. Till November 16th, I didn't believe that really something will be that strong. As the French say, l'heure est grave, means that the hour is very critical. And they are saying it now, that the time is flying by, that President Macron, there is something wrong in the decision-making there. Let's not forget that before these elections, there were many people were going to vote for François Fillon, his opponent, and suddenly the media, the mainstream media there, owned by many businessmen, shifted towards Macron, who worked for the banks and all that. So I think that this was coming. The second point, the far right, there is a sense in the spirits of the French people that everyone now is corrupt. They don't trust anyone. The day before, not last night, the night before, the people working for the ambulances, they made a major strike at midnight, and this is a critical hour for the ambulances. When they work for, they made.
It's a crippling strike.
Oh, yes.
They went to the National Assembly, and they blocked it, and they said, because these are the people who are ruining our lives, those who are trying to say that we are representing you. There was many words that were said and stories just like in 1789 before the French Revolution. For example, they say some deputies went to the restaurant and each one paid 200 euros for his lunch. And the French people, they have the same mentality since 1789, saying, this is from our taxes. We cannot afford paying that. And you are paying that from our money. Yet today they are saying, so this applies to the left and this applies to the right. The third point, it's about the different nationalities. They are very enraged, the French, that outside France, people are saying that these are foreigners. Because, that's very weird, because lots of them are saying, no, it's us, the people. We are suffering from the wrong decision-making that took place since tens of years ago, whether it was Mitterrand, Chirac, Sarkozy, Hollande, and then Macron. But Macron just is too much for them. So I think that this is the third point. Until now, the banlieue, which is the suburbs in France, the Arabs and the African origins, the third generation, they're still calm. When you see the footages, they're all French. There is anarchists in the French movement. The anarchists are, maybe we have seen them in the Arab Spring in Egypt even.
Well, even if you have other nationalities, but most of them are people that have been born in France. I mean, this is their home.
And hard-working people who are paying taxes as the rest of the French. So what is taking place now is, as they said it, the hour is critical. And yesterday, the schools, the students who are in the final year in the high school, they're starting making strikes.
We're talking about 16, 17, and 18-year-olds.
Yeah, and what they're saying, we have no jobs in the future. We will pay 3,000 euros for the universities there. We have no ambition anymore, because we know there is an elite who is governing that. This is what they're saying. This is not what I'm saying. And the main problem that since November 17th till today, the police, the CRS, used the tear gas, and they were violent act. And there were also, and this is very important, the extreme. Some of them just said, we won't hurt any of our people, and they surrendered to the demonstrations. So, yes, the hour is very critical now.
Your Excellency, will Macron and his government be able to contain the situation?
It needs a political vision in order to absorb this. And I have witnessed this several times in Europe. If we recall the time of de Gaulle, same thing, and they make strikes against him and he left. I lived a similar situation in Germany in the 80s, but it was well contained. When there was a deficit in the budget, and there were two opinions. In economy, you have to give a solution and the contrary one. Yes. And the politicians should choose which one they can implement. This must be taken into consideration even everywhere. So, the Minister of Economy, Lambsdorff, in 1982, he thought that in order to make life easier and to restore the deficit in the budget, he must make the taxes less to encourage people to pay more. Also to make the social subsidies a little bit less. I was in the hospital myself for a couple of days, and I met a lady who stayed in the hospital for 1 year because it is for free. So that was in the government of Helmut Schmidt. And he disagreed with his Minister of Economy, and he went to the Bundestag saying, please vote against me, we want to have new election. Helmut Kohl came, the other Helmut they call him, with the same Minister of Economy, and they implemented what he was proposing. In 3 years I was living there, instead of huge deficit in the budget to huge surplus in the budget. It depends how are you going to sell the package, the economic package, to the people.
Do you see that, and I'm not talking about the average layman here, because definitely it's not just the average layman.
No,
there are political parties that are involved in this as well. Do you see that there is a political will by the other parties to calm things down rather than escalate?
Not the rightist. Not the rightist, because on the contrary, they take this situation in order to jump in. And another burden in France, which is the burdens of the cost of the European Union. You know that Germany, France, and England, they were what we call net contributor to the budget.
Now it's France.
You
now
pay
it's France and,
to the budget a certain percentage of your GDP or your tax, and you gain by subsidies to agriculture sector. France has a huge agriculture sector, and without satisfying the agriculture sector, no government can continue. So now, after the withdrawal of UK, the cost of this invoice will be much more on Germany and France. Those are the only net contributor now in Europe. This will cost them a lot, and it will increase after the withdrawal of UK. You remember Margaret Thatcher, and she was quarreling. She said, you are stealing us, because also Britain was not tolerating this sort of burden. So it is a matter of how can a good politician with an economic background can deal with the matter and sell it, and I mean by selling, marketing the whole idea to the people without annoying the needy classes. This is the most, because the needy classes, agriculture sector also, are widely spread. I give you one small example how the burdens are. Every cow in France or Germany is subsidized by 1,000 euros a year. So
Well, it pays off if you play your cards right.
Yeah.
Dr. Cherif, do you think that Macron will be able to contain the situation, or the people and the far right will move things in a different direction?
First of all,
What messages are you getting from France?
the time is running out for him. You have to take action. We have seen this example in many...
Well, the action is to postpone it for 6 months. Evidently this is not satisfying the people.
It's not satisfying. The problem, like His Excellency Ambassador said, that the decision-making people, decision-makers, should have told him, and this also in the security apparatus should tell him, should have told him before that something is coming on the way. He should have taken the right steps. People are really very...
Was it clear? Was the message
Yes.
clear earlier that
Yes.
things will get out of hand if
Yes.
the reforms are done as he's doing?
Yes, because the French people are, as they call themselves in French, râleurs, they're not satisfied from anything.
Okay.
So they usually, the students go to the streets, the syndicates go to make strikes. This time it's very different, and now it's the people. And when we talk about the far right and the rightists, they are very, very, very keen not to intervene now for a simple reason. They don't have a solution. No one has a solution now.
To the way things...
Yes, this is the critical point, and he knows it. He was gambling on this, that no one of you is capable to find a solution, so I'm the only one there, and the people have no choice. So he couldn't imagine that the people will go to the streets. When you have no alternatives, there is no alternatives on the political scene.
Have people gone out to the street out of their own free will, or were they, no, I wouldn't say pushed, but
encouraged?
Were they encouraged, to put it diplomatically, to hit the streets?
It's the Facebook again, just technology again. People talking to each other. My friends there were talking to me a year ago and telling me it's boiling. It's boiling in every sector. And it's coming, there will be, but many of the French people are very, very worried that the escalation, if there will be arms and people will be killed. They are very worried that this could take place.
That things get out of hand.
If it will be like that, it will be a disaster for all of them. You have seen in the Champs-Élysées what happened, and you have seen that.
But it was not a peaceful demonstration. What we saw, and again, I'm not going to rely just on the media, because we've had the experience of how the media likes to ignite things.
I saw all the sequences without any comments. It was filmed since 7 a.m. till 11 p.m. And what happened is that when the police wanted to just push them, the reaction was very violent, and the police wasn't prepared for such a reaction. They thought they would push them and the people would go home.
As was the case in previous maybe demonstration.
Exactly. The people didn't go home. But the difference that they left the Champs-Élysées and they went to other parts of the city, and then they left home. They went home. It's very different from other parts of the world where they stayed in the square and the place. No. Why? Because this is a war of attrition. The police next Saturday, they know they have a new edition of violent...
This coming Saturday?
Yes. Yes.
So you think that after the statement by the Prime Minister and the suspension, more aggression will take place on Saturday?
The fact that they told them, do not go, this is infuriating for the French. They said, we will go. And where I got as messages, they want to go not to Arc de Triomphe as they did, they will go to the Bastille as a symbol for like the French Revolution. They want to go there. It's an empty building. I said, is there something important there? They said, no, it's an empty building, but it's a symbol.
The symbol.
And we play on the symbols now. And when they go to the Bastille, that means that the police will rally to them. So the far right has no solution. The right, the left, no one. And that's why Macron is taking it easy, because he thinks that, well, no one has a solution. I'm the only one. You're stuck to me. That's why the hour is critical, whether it will be a total bloodshed or whether there will be the army that will intervene. If there is no political solution, and you know why there is no political solution? It's because of the EU, of Europe. He loves the solution. 2 days ago...
What do you mean by it's because of the EU?
I'll tell you. Now they know that they are paying taxes for everything because of the EU. The EU is putting every regulation. They're telling them that you should do that, you should not do that. When you go to fish to get fish from the sea, you have this quantity, don't take more than that. They're imposing on them. They say Brussels is imposing everything. There is an important point, is that two events, one happened 2 days ago and something will happen on December the 10th. The first thing, 2 days ago, Germany asked since 1945, or the creation of the UN, the United Nations.
December 10th, that's Monday.
Yes.
Okay.
2 days ago, Germany asked France to cede its permanent seat on the UN Security Council for Germany, because they are politically and economically more powerful. If there will be any contribution for the UN, it will be Germany on behalf of Europe. The say will be for Europe. You can check it on the media. They asked for that. On December 10th, Macron is going to Morocco to sign EU agreement about the international agreement on immigration.
And the far right is not in favor of this, so definitely this will be an opportunity to do something.
The far right are saying, look what's happening. He will open the borders. Already the borders are open. But the far right, I repeat, they have no solution. No one has the solution.
But they're capitalizing to encourage.
No, Marine Le Pen, her niece, Marion Maréchal Le Pen, no one will be able to be elected at this critical time. No one has a solution. Everyone will back off. We have seen this scene before in many countries.
Your Excellency, how does this work within the framework of economic reform? In other words, France is one of the main powers, so to speak, in Europe. What does all this do to its economy? And taking into account, one thing that we used to say to ourselves, there are seasons of tourism, for example, December, Christmas and New Year's. I mean, the timing as well is very, very critical.
Yes. I think we have to tackle a new dimension in this situation also, that because of the European Union, there is a sort of supranational. The European Union is becoming much stronger than the governments.
Yes.
So France or Germany or who...
They all have to follow suit.
They have to follow the trade rules of the European Union, the border rules. Everything is designed by the European Union. Brussels is on the lead. Migration, which is also a big headache, and that was one reason for UK to withdraw. So how we can match between a national consensus about being part of Europe or a national consensus being independent? This is also affecting
Isn't this working more towards a national consensus? Because some analysts are saying, well, look at the situation in France and those who are against the Brexit. Look at what's happening in France. Isn't this working towards a fragmentation of the EU?
I think that there are countries who are really strongly defending the European Union, led by Germany. Because once I was in Germany on the border of Poland, and I was teasing my companion, telling him, isn't this a part of your land? I mean, Poland took 7% of Germany.
Yes.
France occupied 16% of Germany. And the border is open. Once I took my car and my family, we went in a nice city, nice restaurant. We have a lunch. I paid in Deutschmark. They said, you are in France. Part of Germany is occupied by France up till now. So the answer from a German that the European Union is compensating us from the German unity. So
therefore,
Germany is ready to pay whatever it takes in order to keep the European Union going on. And really, I admire the foreign policy of Germany about this point, even with countries out of the EU. You remember when I was negotiating about the Egyptian-European Association Agreement. At the end, at the very far end, Germany compensated Europe about the cost of the Egyptian Association Agreement. So let us hope that other countries will help the French situation in order to stand. Something amazing me that this is not the sort of strikes we have seen in the last couple of decades in Europe. It was not violent ones. Once when we were talking about the law in Egypt of strikes, I asked our minister, Nabil Fahmy, to take the German law and impose it in Egypt. It's much stronger than ours. You cannot just go and make a strike. You have to ask for it. You must tell how many people are going to join. You must pay a fraction of money for each one who is going to participate in order to make sure that you are serious about it. And you are limited to a certain area.
Geographical area, yes.
You cannot move 1 centimeter out, then you are under the law. But here in France, really, since long time, we haven't seen things like that, to start to burn something or to destroy something. This is totally new to us. Let us hope that this is not the attitude, because we all will suffer. I think this will reflect on us. Don't forget that Europe is our main trade partner and main trade investor. And really we are making...
How will it reflect on Europe initially? Because, as you were saying, France and Germany are the main players in Europe. How will such a problem in France reflect on
It can affect many things. It can affect movement of investor, movement of trade, movement of individuals. Once the Prime Minister of Morocco told me that if you cross the Gibraltar, you are in Sweden. From Spain, from South Spain to Sweden, you don't meet any border soldier. The whole Europe is open. This is something for everyone to benefit. And I don't think that wise men in Europe would sacrifice this benefit, the benefit of this very big market, the largest market in the whole world. Germany once was the largest exporter of the world before China jumped in. So it is a good piece of cake.
I can't help when I look at footage such as the one that's on screen right now, when you see the cars burning and stuff. The French people are not aggressive by nature. Their history is not really very... Their modern history is not aggressive, so to speak. I mean, if you're against an increase in tax, or if you're complaining about the economic situation, why go into burning vehicles and breaking stores? And it's not a typical behavior. What are you hoping to achieve? Because to anybody watching, it doesn't seem like this is really... You cannot be sympathetic with people that go down and burn your own car when it's parked in the street. What's the message that is being delivered on screen to the world at large about what's taking place in France? It's not a demonstration anymore.
The message, let me speak frankly, if you may, the message is given more by the authorities in charge to the leadership that something is wrong, because usually they should prevent this. And they were outpassed by everything. They were exhausted at the end of the day. And this is the message, that things are really critical now. We cannot handle it anymore. We have used all the tear gas. We have arrested more than 500 people. People were bleeding. Some went to the hospitals. The police said we are being hit and insulted by everyone now. We don't want to achieve this point. So I think the message is it's an alarm to the leadership that when this happens in the streets, that means they care. Because the next step, it won't be the police. It will be more. And even they spoke about l'état d'urgence, means the martial law. They said it won't help. The people would not respect because...
And they said they were going to declare a state of emergency. You don't think this will hinder the protesters?
When we were under the dictatorship of the Muslim Brotherhood before the revolution of June 30th, 2013, they imposed a martial law and nobody respected. The people went to the streets because we were defined. And we said we want our freedom and we want to take our own decision. So the decision makers, they said, be careful, because if you take this step and declare the martial law and that people should be aware that they will be arrested, they will go to the streets. Well, this is what happened last Saturday. The police told the prefecture, told the Minister of Interior, Mr. Castaner, they told the Gilets jaunes, the yellow vests, go to Champ de Mars. It's near the Tour d'Eiffel. And they said, you won't cross this part. It's like the fan zone during the World Cup. And they said, we're not sheep, we're not a flock. We go anywhere we want. We are in our country, and we will say no to this kind of policies.
But they went to 5 or 6 major areas.
They went to Champs-Élysées. He said it today, Edouard Philippe, the Prime Minister. He said, don't go next Saturday to the Champs-Élysées. They said, we're going. So if they declare, so what's taking place in the street...
So when a Prime Minister wants don't go and people go, is he warning? Do you sense that this was, when he's saying don't go, is it a request or a warning?
He is using the cards as an executive that he could use now. This is the cards that he can use. They're very keen not to use the martial law, because if they use the martial law, that means that the army should interfere, and maybe the army would say, no, we don't know. So he doesn't want to go to this option anyway. He's just using all the cards. He knows very well that when he will say so, there will be the people there. The only question, how the paramilitary police, the CRS there, how they will deal with the people next Saturday. This is the main question.
Do you think the people next Saturday will be calmer? I mean, will we see a repetition of what we saw a few days ago? Because as I was saying, it's not a peaceful demonstration or a protest against policies. It's an aggressive act.
The people said it clearly why this happened. They said they started shelling us with tear gas. This is disrespect for us.
But they started the shelling when they were...
At the beginning, because they said back off. They didn't back off, so they shelled them.
That's what I mean. I mean, it was not. It was not at the start. I mean, the people refused to back, so they.
Yeah, but no one used to burn cars or anything. They just said no, we won't back off. So there is a tradition, a French tradition, that the police and the army are from the people. So the French, when they went to speak to the officers, they said. There's French, Franco-French. I'm not talking about any others. They told the officers there, we are making these demonstrations for our kids. Your kids will suffer with our kids because you're French like us. What's the difference between you and me? Both of us, we are citizens. Some of them backed off and didn't want to touch them. And others just carried on, but then gave a report, detailed report, that things are getting out of hand. These are our people after all.
Your Excellency, Europe has a lot of parties that are of the far-right ideology. Do you think what is happening in France might spread? And when I say spread, I cannot help but go back to the alleged Arab Spring that we all lived through. That it was like a contagious thing that went around. Do you think that others might decide to join the game, to spread some kind of...
I have in mind two things. First, I depend on the wisdom of Europe. Europe is an old continent. It's an old history. And the wise people are much more than the irregular people. But on the other hand, Europe is not dominant to choose. Mind you, that always I give the example of Germany. Since the Second World War, no party in Germany won by 50%. No party, no single party ruled in Germany. So it's a sort of alliance.
It's a very close call. That's why I'm saying.
Yeah,
can you find the other 50% capitalizing
to... Take UK. If you go today for another voting, whether to stay in or out, you will have a different situation. Also in my mind that I am afraid, I hate to say that, the leadership in France is a little bit lack of experience. I see people who are not with good history, a very young gentleman, he is not experienced about this matter, and this makes a hell of a difference. This is a lesson to all of us in order not to, because sometimes we are amazed about the young people and the old people, about the poor and the rich. This is disastrous if we continue thinking about that. You get somebody because he is somebody by himself. You see everywhere in the newspapers or
but
the
it was
Facebook,
the people's choice.
That the minister of, I don't know what, the minister of culture, I don't know where, is 30 years old. I have seen the Minister of Scientific Research in Germany, Rosenhuber. He was 37 years old. Why? Not because he's 37 years old, because he a candidature for Nobel Prize.
Yeah, definitely experience
so
is
what I am afraid
that
I don't see real politicians controlling the situation, and unless they can, by themselves and by all the nationalists of the country, come to a national consensus about how we are going to deal with the matter, then we shall see for longer time.
But when you say a national consensus, the first step is the suspension, that we will stop, we will discuss. Yet what Dr. Cherif is saying, that even though he said he stopped, they're going down to the street on Saturday. So do you see that there is a political will by the people or the other parties or whoever to actually sit and discuss and work out a formula?
Yes, it depends on the confidence. And I think that the street lost confidence with the leaders. They don't have somebody who is... So
it doesn't seem like they want to actually to continue to dialogue.
The word is confidence. It's nonsense to continue a dialogue with somebody whom I do not feel confident.
Dr. Cherif, I was asking about whether we could see an Arab Spring. Can the far right stretch things out of control?
Well, let me just, as His Excellency the Ambassador said, about the dialogue. Each time in Matignon, which is the headquarters of Prime Minister, they host a spokesman for the movement. The other parts in France, they say, we have no leader. These are not our spokesmen. So you can have any kind of deal, it will go in the air.
How come you don't have a representation of all the different...
This is the first time that there is no representative for this movement. And they're proud. They say, it's us, the people. Even in 1789, there was Robespierre and all of them. Now there is no one. And
how can there be no representative of the people? I don't understand.
The street, they said the street. We're capable to talk. They dialogue with the police, as I told you. They speak with them, and they said, don't listen to these giving you orders. You're suffering, I'm suffering. You're paying taxes, I'm paying taxes. Your kids, I won't benefit from Christmas with the gifts and travels, and my kids, so we have the same problem. So it's a movement in the street. That's why, if it's contagious or not, well, last Friday we had in Brussels the same movements. And
that's why I'm saying, is this a trend?
It depends on the suffering of the people of any country. I think that in Germany they're not prepared yet for that. The French people are boiling since a long time ago. And maybe in Germany it's not the same thing. We have seen some movement in Europe with what took place with Spain and Catalonia and the independence. It didn't work. There are some things are trying to shape Europe. So what's going on in France now is the strongest political earthquake, and I call it security earthquake. And once again, I'm telling you, the danger...
Security earthquake?
Yes.
Why do you say security?
Because that's why I was telling you.
What are you concerned about?
If there will be people killed and there will be a lack of control, as you have seen, the Champs-Élysées, it was left totally by the police, and this is not made by mistake.
The police withdrew.
They didn't wish to go on, and next Saturday the same thing. They said, we are exhausted. It's not easy to shell people all the time with tear gas like that, being insulted. When he goes home, he knows that his work, yes, is to do that, but he's being hated by masses, not by criminals. And the French are telling them, every demonstration, la police est avec nous. They mean the police is with us. Join us, join us. They're playing emotionally on that. Join us. And I think this is the main point. Someone said from the Gilets jaunes, the yellow vest said at a TV station, he said the military police, they came and they touched him on the shoulder and they said to him, go on, we're with you, we cannot express it, but go on. So the presenter told him, asked him, so on whom you will count now, you want whom exactly? He said, the army. And there was total silence. No one spoke because they have lost confidence in everyone.
Yes.
Is this, how will it reflect, should, God forbid, the army goes down in the street? What will this do to France?
No, I think those armies are a sort of professional armies. They will do whatever in the sake of the security of the country. I think that maybe they need the good advice from their friends, whether it is Germany, Poland, because mind you that you were asking a question whether this can spread in
maybe we have a phobia.
All the European countries are benefiting from the EU because they are the only net contributor now is Germany. And I explained the reason for that. Yes. But all the countries, take Romania, or Bulgaria, Poland, all of them, they are benefiting from being in the EU. So maybe this will encourage voices of wisdom in France. And let us wait and see. I really don't, I cannot speculate at this moment.
We have
where it ends.
A couple of minutes to wrap up, and maybe one of the questions that I would like to ask is that indeed the major fireworks have been in Paris, but other major areas also have been, other parts of France also have seen some demonstrations. Are you expecting an escalation? That should things escalate within the next few days, that it will not be restricted to Paris? Will we see it in other parts of France, or will it remain in the capital?
Last Saturday in Toulouse, it was very violent. And the people said...
in major cities,
yeah,
but will
yes.
it...
Well, you know, the people who were in the Champs-Élysées last Saturday, they came from all across France.
Yes.
So they traveled.
Yes.
And Paris is the symbol. So,
And the information technology would do its work.
of course. So in Toulouse, one of the demonstrators, Franco-French, said it. He said, we were shelled with the tear gas. And then he said something. He said, our number was far larger than the police. We could have done many things to them, but we won't do it because we're waiting that they will realize the times to join us. So they're calming down. It's taking place, yes, demonstrations. They're blocking the main routes. They're blocking the places where you pay the money to cross from the city to other. They are blocking the tolls, yes. And this is what they are saying. They say we're suffering from the euro. When we had the franc, it was different. The euro, we are suffering. They said the Germans are not suffering from the euros. We are suffering because of the euro. The French, this is the main difference between the French and the Germans. And they said the second thing, they said the péage, the tolls, they said, these are the main assets of the country. And if we make them really this pain in their pockets, maybe they will move. I think time is running out. It's very critical because of the technology, of rumors, and the boiling sentiment, and the people in the police who are getting exhausted.
Well, gentlemen, unfortunately our time is up. I'd like to thank you both, gentlemen, for your fruitful input. I'd like to thank you, the viewers. Wish you a very pleasant evening, and we'll see you same time next. Until then, good night.